Whoa, the light coming through looks so cool.
Does it? Oh, fuck. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Tanner Steed. Today we're going to be doing something super cool. We're going to be doing some pre-mixtures in preparation for a lecture that we're doing tonight. Tonight, Mr. Benjamin Walling and I are going to be doing a lecture series specifically on the topic of portraits. So you can see over my shoulder, I've got this painting here. This is a painting of a good friend, Niel. I've just started this. This is maybe the I would consider this the first painting stage. So I'll be demonstrating the second painting stage tonight during the lecture and explaining my thought process in creating much more realistic flesh tones. So if you are coming to that, fantastic. If you're seeing this video now, you already missed it, unfortunately. But we're gonna be doing it monthly. So if you wanna learn about the next one, an upcoming lecture, make sure to go to my website, Steed Art, look under the workshop tab or under lectures, and yeah, hope you can make it to the next one. But today I thought I would show you how I'm preparing for the lecture. I'm going to be pre-mixing my colors and creating the full spectrum of my palette in preparation for this very niche color harmony that I've selected for this picture. For this one, I'm inspired by this beautiful painting by John Singer Sargent. It's been my favorite for a really long time in the Denver Art Museum. Every time I go there, I have to get up close and personal with it. It's this little head study of a Capri girl. He painted her many times, and this one was just a little head study, but it's painted with such incredible precision. It's got the most luxurious flesh tones, and I just love the simplicity of it. So I'm inspired by that one, and that's why I positioned Niel in the exact same form, being full profile. I'm also inspired by Gustav Klimt. I've been really liking his gold gilding, and I've never really tried that, so I'm actually planning on experimenting with a little bit of gilding on this one. Kind of going over the top just for fun. I also just got back from Egypt, and while I was there, I was looking at the orientation that the hieroglyphs were in, and I thought it was really interesting how they kind of maximize the silhouette, in that the portraits are all in profile, the chest is all out like this, and then the legs are oriented the other way. And I thought that was just an interesting pose, so I'm kind of mimicking that in this portrait. So if you're coming tonight, fantastic. Comment if you made it to the lecture, and if not, that's okay. I hope you learned something from this pre-mixture. All right, let's get started. All right, so we're gonna lay out our palette, going from light to dark, warm to cool. I'm going to start with titanium white, Williamsburg. I like this white specifically because it only contains PW6, which is just titanium white. Most of them have a little bit of PW4, which is zinc white, and that is going to increase the likelihood that your paint will crack. There was a test I saw online somewhere where they tested out all the different whites and looked at the yellowing content and the likelihood that it would crack. And this one got the best results outside of one other one. I'm kind of forgetting. If you remember and you've seen that study, put it in the comments. I'm actually very interested. Okay, next up, we're doing Kremnitz white, which is lead-based. So being lead-based, another reason why I'm wearing my gloves. I don't want to eat this, even if it's a little tempting. Just kidding. I hate when paint looks like frosting. It disgusts me. No out there. Next up, we're going with our yellow because it's warm to cool. Quinacridone gold. You could be using that Indian yellow shade if you'd like. I'm going to lay out plenty because I know I'm going to need quite a lot of this. Okay, yellow. Okay, so for this green gold by Old Holland, I like to put it next to my yellow, even though if we're going according to the spectrum, this should be, you know, in between yellow and blue. Because I know I'm going to be doing these premixtures, once I make all the premixtures, it's just going to make sense to place it here. Okay, next up, going with cadmium scarlet. And in most cases, you're not going to need multiple reds, but for this particular portrait, I have cadmium scarlet for the flesh and cadmium deep for my background, and I'm going to be doing premixtures for both. So next up, cadmium red deep, which is kind of a more purpley red. So we've got a warm red goes on the right. Okay, next up, we're going to do raw umber. Now, because I call this my neutral yellow, I actually frequently put it next to my yellows, next to my quinacridone yellow. But in this case, we're going light to dark, warm to cool. So I'm going to put it here. Next up, we're going with our neutral purple, our neutral red, which is Van Dyke Brown by Rembrandt. I like to put out a little too much paint and have some left over than to have not enough. Okay, next up, ivory black. And these premixtures are not just going to last the evening during our lecture, rather they're going to last for the next, I don't know, 5 days. I like to put this palette in my freezer. We have one in the studio that's dedicated just for paint, and keeping it cool reduces the rate of oxidation, so they'll last for a very, very long time. Okay, now let me grab my palette knife. As for palette knives, I like the longer and larger. There's a joke in there somewhere. So you're going to be able to apply exactly these premixtures to any palette that you have. Often during my weekly lessons, I teach Sundays and Thursdays here in the studio. I'll have people do premixtures with a very limited palette, like the Zorn palette with yellow ochre instead of quinacridone gold, cad red, ivory black, and we are essentially just trying to explore the full range of possibilities for this particular palette. So I'm going to start out with my lights, go down to my darks, and we're going to go through all of the generalized premixtures with just this palette. Okay, so first I'm going to start by mixing my Cremnitz white and titanium white. Putting those together. Oh, crikey. I already got this contaminated, but that's okay. At least it's the yellow. So a little bit of quinacridone gold got in there. So I'm not going to be able to use this for my blue, but that's okay. And yeah, I'll put that there. Left over. Okay, I'm going to squirt out a little bit of extra. I want absolutely no contamination so I can see the full spectrum of this palette. Titanium white and Cremnitz. Now you're probably wondering, why on earth am I mixing these two together? So titanium white is exceptionally opaque, so when you need something to be opaque, it's a great pigment for that. Cremnitz white is the opposite. It's more transparent, so it achieves what those titanium white and zinc white mixtures like Winsor & Newton does, but without the issue with cracking. By combining these two, I am making the strongest paint film with the lead white and getting a little bit of transparency. Okay, there we go. Put that there. And I'm going to take this non-contaminated white and move it over here. All right, we're going to start. We're going to start with our flesh tones, and we're going to do a yellow string, a green string, a red string, and then a blue string. In every single circumstance, we are going to go high chroma to low chroma. Okay? High chroma to low chroma, meaning more saturated to less saturated. So we're going to start with these lightest mixtures at their peak saturation. So I'm grabbing quinacridone gold. This is going to be my yellow mixture. Quinacridone gold with a molecule of red. This is going to make an extremely vibrant premixture. More yellow than red is the point of this mixture. So it's yellow leaning. All of these are just going to lean in one direction or the other. Okay? Now we're going to go a little bit darker with each step in the value range, going down. And in order to do so, I'm going to darken using my neutral yellow. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of this, make my next step. Grabbing my neutral yellow, which is raw umber, Old Holland. Okay, now I'm going to go a step darker, grabbing that top mixture, a little bit more raw umber. So we're getting less saturated as we get darker. In other words, more neutral and darker. So right now these are equivalent. I'm going to grab more raw umber. Okay, squirt out some more raw umber. The exact percentage is not important. Rather, it's the relativity of each one of these. So the yellow string is going to be yellower than anything else here. And as we go darker, it's just more neutral. Okay, now I'm going to go up the value scale and contaminate these mixtures so each one of these are interrelated. Okay, so watch this. Now I'm going to go into the top mixture. Even though that is my highest, most chromatic mixture, I'm going to neutralize it a little bit so I still have a little bit more range after this. I can have that pure mixture. And really with flesh tones, it's unlikely until the very last step that you're going to need to go full chroma. In other words, we're starting from the middle out. Middle of the Munsell color scale spectrum. spectrum. Okay, now I'm going to do the same, moving to the right, but this mixture is now going to be a little bit more green. So I'm grabbing my white, green gold, molecule of the quinacridone yellow, and my goal is to make it equal saturation with this one on the left and equal in value. So this is going to be the lightest, greenest thing. Lightest, greenest pre-mixture. And a little bit of this raw umber is contaminating the mixture, and that's okay. Remember, I went back up and contaminated that one intentionally. Okay, now we're going to go darker and a little bit more neutral. So I'll grab a little bit of this. And within the green spectrum, I'm going to grab just a little bit of green gold and raw umber again, because I'm seeing green as more related to yellow, if that's my neutral yellow. I'm going for the same value here, but a greener version. All right, we'll go darker, more raw umber. Maybe a molecule of green. And although side by side these don't look very, very different, because this contains a little bit of the green gold, it is by definition greener than that. If I were to put this right on top, you would be able to see that it is in fact greener. Okay, now I'm going to get more raw umber. And because this paint is going to last for quite a while, I'm happy to premix a ton of paint, because I can use it on this current project and I can use it on others. Another good replacement for this quinacridone gold, it's not quite there, but there are the Lake series by Michael Harding. I think those would be a pretty good primary yellow. And that's not to say that quinacridone gold is a true primary. It's very unique. Okay, so now I'm going to do my next mixture. It's going to be red leaning. So I'm grabbing my white. This time I'll grab a larger scoop of red, molecule of yellow, and I'm also going to neutralize it just a touch with the green, just a little bit. Molecule of raw umber. So it's red dominant, but not the full saturation, full expression of the saturation. So why are we doing this? We are creating a finely tuned instrument. So when we need to make something a little bit lighter and a little bit warmer, you don't just have to, randomly mix on the fly. You can go to one of these mixtures and say, okay, how close am I already? It's just so much more efficient. Maybe it's redder and warmer and lighter, but it needs to be a little bit more purple. So you can add to that pre-mixture a touch of Van Dyke brown, and boom, you're right there. All right, now we're going to get darker. I'm going to add a molecule of red. This time I'm not only adding raw umber, but I'm going to grab a little bit of Van Dyke brown, because that is my neutral purple in this case. This is such a beautiful combination of colors. Wow. Okay, Van Dyke, raw umber. Okay, now just Van Dyke at the bottom, added to this mixture. All right, so I'm going to make sure to clean my palette knife thoroughly, because this last mixture is going to be my blue. And if you're looking at this palette and you're like, what? How on earth is he going to mix blue? Well, it's super simple. It's just white and ivory black. And relative to all of these extremely warm, beautiful colors, the ivory black with white is going to look significantly more blue than you'd expect. So grabbing black, put it down here. More black is going to be more neutral, and I'm not adding any Van Dyke brown to this. So I'm working on a blue table right now, so this really doesn't look blue whatsoever. But I know for a fact that this is the coolest thing on this palette. So it'll appear blue once placed on the portrait. Okay, and then in between these two, I can grab a little bit of red. So I'm just transferring these over. And grab my blue. Blue plus red is violet. So there's my purple. All right, we're ready to go. with all of these pre-mixtures, I'm not planning on just taking this color and putting it in the perfect place and, you know, taking the next color and putting it in the next spot. It's not like color by, what is it, color by number, something like that, or paint by number. Rather, it's getting you as close as you possibly can and then making these subtle adjustments by adding these main colors from your palette. This shows the full spectrum, the full expression of this palette, and you can make all the micro adjustments that are necessary. So I hope that was helpful.
Mm-hmm.